So thank you everyone for joining us this evening for our webinar, Leading SEL Implementation in Schools. We are doing this through the SEL Academy, or the Academy for SEL in Schools, which is a partnership between St. Elizabeth University as well as Rutgers University. We're really looking forward to spending the next hour with all of you and just sharing an overview of the Academy, as well as taking a deeper dive into what we call the short courses. So we have two series of short courses that we'll be sharing with you this evening. And those really allow you to intentionally integrate SEL skills into your content area instruction. We'll be sharing one of the short courses called STAT that allows us to do that, as well as really take a preventative approach to any academic and behavioral issues that you might be facing through Tier 2 interventions. And Tracy will be sharing that through the lab, which is another one of our short courses. So at the end, we'll allow 15 minutes. So we'll stop at around 8:15 or so to allow some time for questions and answers. So please just, take note of any questions that you have along the way, and know that we will have that dedicated time at the end where you can answer any question, or we'll answer any questions that you have. So without any further ado, let's get started. So, and just to introduce myself, my name is Lauren Fulmer, and I am a course facilitator through the Academy for SEL in Schools. This is probably my 5th year working through the Academy. And at one point I was on the other end of things as a student as well. So I went through the certificate program. And so I'll share a little bit about that with you later. So a little bit more about me as well. I just this year started a new role as the math curriculum chair and middle school math teacher at the Willow School. And for those of you in New Jersey, which we have 2 New Jerseyans here with us, you might be familiar with that, but it is in central New Jersey. And so most of my experiences, this is my 13th year in education, have been in PK to 5, but I've had also a lot of experience in higher education, about 5 or 6 years as well. Most recently, I've been an adjunct instructor and still am an adjunct instructor for the doctoral program through the University of Dayton. And then I also do a lot of work through the Social Emotional Character Development Lab at Rutgers, and I am a consulting field expert and research consultant through them as well. So really have my hands in many different aspects of SEL, really passionate about this work. And that's why, I'm here this evening along with my colleague Tracy Maiden to share that passion with all of you. So going to just turn it over to Tracy to introduce herself as well.
Thank you, Lauren. Hi, I'm Tracy Maiden, and I'm also a course facilitator for the SEL Academy. I've been teaching courses for Rutgers for almost about 5 years. My full-time job, however, is working in Highland Park, and that's I work in a dean position. So I assist students in meeting school-wide code of conduct expectations. So that's one of the things that I love about my background in SEL, because in that position of teaching others to restore and repair any damages or anything that is done in the school, this background really helps support that. So as Lauren was saying, you can use this background in so many different avenues of where you're working. So I also assist the principal in adopting and organizing evidence-based behavioral interventions. So to prepare for this educational environment, I attended the Academy for SEL in Schools, and I received a certificate in school leadership for social emotional learning and character development. So these programs are really dear to my heart, because after following these steps that we're talking about today, I was able to be certified to supervise the lab that we currently have in our district, as well as it prepared me to become a professor at Rutgers to also teach the SECD courses. So our purpose today, and Laura mentioned some of this, is to introduce the SEL Academy instructional program at St. Elizabeth University and Rutgers University. So our goal is to provide an overview of the structure and content of the courses in the certificate program. So we'll start by describing the 2 series of short courses offered. Lauren will be reviewing students taking action together, STAT, and I'll be reviewing the SEL Lab. After our presentations, we'll be happy to respond to any questions you may have about the program or the leadership concepts covered in the course. Let's begin by taking a look at our course content and delivery. Okay, so the instruction side of SEL Academy has 2 programs, the General Track program and the Accelerated Track program. So the General Track program, this program is composed of 3 courses, each addressing a different level of participation and a different level of delivery perspective of social, emotional, and character development, the SECD competencies. So this program is for those with some to no knowledge or experience in teaching SECD directly to students. So for those who come to us with a fair amount of SECD knowledge, our courses will enhance what they already know. So with the general track, you will go through the courses, and Lauren is going to tell you a little bit more about those courses. Now with the accelerated track program, that's composed of 2 courses strictly designed for those who have 5+ years of consistent and intentional teaching of social, emotional, and character development to students in their setting. So this fast-paced program builds on the strong SED teaching experiences spanning 5+ years, and it will result in creating a portfolio documenting this wonderful journey. So there's also a professional development piece to this program, and the students in the program will also learn how to create and develop an SECD workshop. So now I'm going to turn the presentation to Lauren, who's going to tell you more about these courses.
Thank you, Tracy. So as Tracy mentioned, there are the 2 tracks. And Tracy, which of the 2 tracks did you go along? Were you in the general or the accelerated?
I went into the general.
So I was in the accelerated. So we have, both perspectives to offer here. And I had, that 5+ years of experience teaching SECD to students. So as long as you're able to make that case and have some evidence to kind of back it up, I had done, multiple, empirically validated programs in different settings with different age groups of kids. So I was able to go through the 2 courses as opposed to the 3 course sequence. So if you are somebody who's going through the general track, meaning that you maybe have dabbled a little bit in SEL before, have some familiarity, maybe have even taught some SECD as well, but you don't have that 5+ years, then you would be going into what we're going to share right now. So this 3 course sequence. So we start off with the SEL 101, which is a foundations course. And I have this is the only course I haven't taught. However, I have done a lot in terms of the curriculum and have, worked with my colleagues in the academy extensively to really take a look at the curriculum and see how it really transitions nicely into 102, which I'm really familiar with. So 101 is providing that strong foundation of what is SECD. We throw around that acronym, and you might be familiar with SEL, but just so everyone's aware, SECD is social emotional character development. So it's really blending the idea of SEL, right, social emotional learning, with the idea of character development. And so we provide you with that background. And this course is really applicable to educators who are in the classroom, any mental health professionals. So we've had social workers, we've had school psychologists before, guidance counselors, as well as after school personnel. So people who are not just implementing after school SEL programming, but also for those who might be doing a Boys and Girls Club, or they might be doing some sort of a scout club or a troop with a group of students. As I mentioned earlier, I've had yoga instructors, martial arts instructors, so it really kind of runs the gamut. And these individuals will have the intent of providing some sort of direct instruction to a group of students. But the 101 course provides background on the SEL competencies. So we start to dig into CASEL, just getting into the competencies of self-awareness, social awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills. And we really just give you some background as to why SECD is important and what it looks like with our students in the classroom. So it's really those theoretical underpinnings to get your buy-in to, okay, yes, I have to get some more. I have to know how to implement this with my students. And that's really what 102 is. So now that you have that foundation in 101, 102 is really for those individuals who are going to be providing direct instruction, whether in the classroom or in smaller group settings, like I mentioned before, guidance counselors, mental health professionals, or in after school settings. So the focus of at 102 is starting to look at, okay, I'm looking at my instruction through what we call an SECD lens and seeing how I can take what I learned about and really bring it into my classroom. So you learn about best practices in the area of SECD. You start to learn about what we call explicit skills instruction. So if you tell your students, okay, you need to listen. Okay, well, what is the skill of active listening? What does that look like? What are the actual elements that that skill entails? And how could I explicitly teach that to my students? And then, of course, reinforce it. So you start to really practice the skills and practice that in explicit skills instruction with groups of students, while still having that support from your instructor. And then, of course, the support of your class of individuals. All of these courses, 101, 102, 103, are done in a hybrid fashion. So there is asynchronous content that is provided. Modules are provided with some readings that you'll do, some videos that you'll watch, discussions that you'll do as well. But then you'll meet for what we call live chats, and you'll be able to really discuss your thoughts and understandings of the material, as well as when you get into 102, what your experiences are with it in your particular setting. In 102, you'll also be introduced to the VPLC, which is the virtual professional learning community, where that will provide you with some additional support along the way. So that's pedagogy and practice, and that leads really nicely into what is the essence of this whole program, and that is called the practicum. And 103, while 101 is 15 weeks, 102 is 10 weeks, 103 is 15 weeks. So it starts off as a longer course, longer course, and then 10 weeks, and then 15. So in this series of 15 weeks, you really it's a culmination of everything you've learned in 101 and 102. Towards the end of 102, you will actually be creating a detailed action plan where you'll be having a group of students in mind that you want to really be able to provide targeted SECD instruction. You'll come up with an action plan that's specific to what they need, and it will be a 12-week program basically that you will be able to implement for them. That will happen, that explicit skills instruction or the implementation of your detailed action plan will take place during SEL 103. And so you'll have that support though from your instructor throughout. You'll do weekly action plans. You'll have the support of your essentially your cohort or your classmates throughout that time period as well. So your instructor absolutely will have gone through, just as I instruct the practicum, have gone through the experience and have a lot of experience just implementing SECD in a variety of different environments. So it's going to be a really interesting experience, or it is a really interesting experience, and I hope that many of you get to go through that because you will be introduced to many individuals in different settings. I've had individuals who were connected internationally, and I had somebody who was in New Jersey who was implementing it with their second grade students, and then somebody in South Africa who is implementing it with their group of high school students. And it's really been awesome to see these individuals come together, share their experiences, and really learn and grow from one another. At the end of each of the courses, you'll receive a certificate, and then upon completion of all 3 courses, you'll receive a certificate that you've completed the program. So you do receive CEUs for your participation, but then of course the certificate as well. And as Tracy mentioned earlier, it is really impactful in giving you a certain level of expertise to be able to be, if you wanted to, an SEL coordinator or be able to have some sort of a leadership role in a school setting when it comes to SEL. So now we're going to dig into, that's just an overview of the series of 3 courses that you could take if you were to go into either the general track or the accelerated track. That would be slightly different. And then just get an overview of SECD and then be really skilled and feel really confident to implement SECD instruction with a group of students. However, if you want to take a shorter course, as the name implies, there are 2 options and they're a little bit more specific. So I'm going to dig into the first of those 2. And so that first course really, the first of the 2 short courses, Students Taking Action Together, these are both separate from the certificate program. And the idea is that they're intended, the short courses, to deepen your knowledge and expertise in a specific area related to SECD. Just like the general track and the accelerated track, they have a hybrid structure. So there is asynchronous content as well as synchronous content. But the difference here is that, like I said, they're separate from the certificate program, and they are also just 2 courses. So I'm going to dig into the first of those 2 short courses, and that is called Students Taking Action Together. I am very, very passionate about this because I actually wrote these 2 courses, and they actually are derived from a research-backed social action pedagogy, and that started years ago through the Rutgers Social Emotional Character Development Lab. Dr. Maurice Elias started that with a team of individuals through the Rutgers SECD Lab, and it's really just grown ever since. I got involved in this work, Students Taking Action Together, about 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago, and what it evolved into is working with a team of individuals, and we just recently published a book through ASCD in the summer, and it's just, I feel so passionately about this work, especially in our current climate, and the need to really make our students just agents of change and be able to identify the problems in the world around them and be able to come up with solutions to those problems. So that's really students taking action together in a nutshell. I will show you the link to the book as well in case you have any interest. But like I said, this work, just as much as SCCD is important, this work, which of course is related, is so important as well. So this particular short course, remember we're talking about 2 tonight. I'm going to share one and Tracy will share the other one. This one is based on students taking action together, which is a series of 5 instructional strategies. And the idea is really that you're integrating SEL skills and civil discourse into existing curriculum content. While the program is designed for students in grades 5 through 12, we've definitely been able to use it successfully with younger students, just in a modified capacity. So those 5 instructional strategies are norms, yes, no, maybe, respectful debate, audience-focused communication, and plan. And so just to give you kind of an overview of those strategies, norms, they are really, we believe in democratizing the classroom and inviting our students to co-create those norms with us, as opposed to giving them rules to follow. We invite them to take a look at, okay, how do you want the space that you're working in, your classroom, to sound like? What do you want it to look like? And together we create, a working agreement that everybody is going to be held accountable to. And norms are something that you come back to. A lot of people think of, oh, well, we established that in the beginning of the year and then that's it. But it's really important that you revisit them and revise them, just to make sure everybody is being held accountable and that they can be changed as the group grows and evolves with one another. Yes, no, maybe, that's really very similar to what many of us know as a value line, but really it facilitates peer opinion sharing and allows students to respectfully disagree with one another. And so yes, no, maybe, you could have very neutral statements that you present. I've done this, when COVID hit with my students, usually with controversial topics, and invited them to take a stance on statements related to that particular topic. So for instance, looking at COVID and their thoughts about when the mask mandate was lifted and how they felt about that, and being able to discuss it with their peers in a very safe and inclusive environment. And that also involves looking at some background sources as well. So involves some literacy skills too. And then respectful debate just kind of builds on that, the peer opinion sharing, and actually is a debate. But the really interesting thing about it is that students are encouraged to argue both sides of the debate. And we don't even really like that word of argue, but really just be able to take away the idea of winning the debate and really just, engage in some perspective taking. So being able to really look at an issue from all stakeholders' perspectives and really just appreciate all of the diversity of the perspectives, and maybe see things through a lens that you wouldn't have looked through otherwise. Audience-focused communication is a fantastic way to build presentation literacy skills, and really to be able to take a particular topic or presentation and develop it in such a way that you have a specific audience in mind, and that you are modifying how you're delivering that content based on that audience's skill base and their skill set rather, and their knowledge, as well as any needs that they might have. And then finally, we end with plan, and plan is a problem-solving framework. And plan is very, very detailed. It can be very detailed, and it has many different levels and components if you want to dig into them, but it can also just be a means of your students being able to walk through a specific problem, and the P standing for describing the problem, being able to really think of that problem from multiple perspectives. L standing for list options, so being able to think of all possible ways that it could be solved. A, coming up with an action plan that is a SMART goal, and really just a specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-oriented, goal that they're reaching for. And then finally, notice successes is the end. So really being able to reflect and think, how could we refine this plan or solution? And what are the things that we did well? How could we improve it moving forward? So in order to accomplish that, there are 2 courses. Each of them are 10 weeks long. So the STAT Foundations course, similar to the SEL 101 that we mentioned previously in the certificate program, it really provides you an overview of all of the 5 instructional strategies and some of the research that really backs them. And then the practicum, similar to the 102, 103, it's kind of a merge of those 2 courses from the certificate program. It really allows students to come up with lessons that they can implement with their students, similar to the detailed action plan, and then they can reflect on, how they went, and do that in a supportive environment with a group of individuals who are also going through this. So being able to, during those live chats, being able to reflect on the successes of their lessons and think about how they can improve them moving forward. So this is the book that we published recently, but really this is the program. I would encourage you, and we will be sharing this with you, but to take a look at the site, and I'm going to get out of the presentation for a moment to be able to share that with all of you. If you take a look at that link, it'll bring you to this site here, and there's a lot of great information here. If you sign up for our listserv as well, you will get lesson plans that are released every single month through our STAT bulletin, and they are fantastic lesson plans. I might be biased because I did support the writing of them, but really just great lesson plans that use the strategies. Generally, they focus on one strategy at a time in order to be able to deal with some controversial topics related to race, gender, class. So you'll take a look at, these are actually, this is all on the website. I'm not going to get into too much of the details, but if you take a look at, these are our matrices that share some of the lesson plans. And if we just take a look at one to get a sense of some of the lessons, if you look at a lesson related to class, using yes, no, maybe, that's the strategy. A specific lesson would be, are gangs trying to do good for society? And like I mentioned before, students are, digging into some background sources through these strategies, as well as being able to really engage in some peer opinion sharing and really constructive dialogue with their peers about that specific topic. We also dig into things like, with plan, how has the Black Lives Matter movement influenced systemic racism? So this is for students in grades 5 through 8, but we have lessons, that are geared more towards younger students as well as towards students in grades 9 through 12. So that is on our website. And like I said, I really encourage you, at your leisure, to take a look at that as well. And the idea of just students taking action together, as I've kind of mentioned through the strategies, is being able to increase students' ability to engage in perspective taking, their empathy, their problem solving skills, and really, really civic engagement. So how can they be productive members of society and really agents of change? It's a versatile program, so I've seen it implemented in small groups by a guidance counselor. I've seen it implemented one-on-one with a school social worker, although it's a little less impactful because it really is important to have a group of students. I've seen it, in fourth grade classrooms all the way up to 12th grade classrooms. I've used it in a variety of different settings myself. Really increases or amplifies students' voice and choice. And, it does it in a way that meets both national and state standards. And so just to kind of give you a little bit more information before I turn it over to Tracy to talk about the other short course, SEL 301 is the first of those two courses, and it provides, the theoretical underpinnings of each of the STAT strategies, and shows how they can be integrated into different programs or curriculum. The idea is not to make more work for the teachers or for the educators, but instead to really use these strategies with existing curriculum. Identifies the key elements of a STAT classroom, small group or after school setting, and then gives educators the necessary tools to be able to support their students in really identifying issues of inequity and be able to, as I mentioned before, take social action. And then that's followed up by the SEL 302, the practicum. And just like the practicum in the certificate program, it supports educators with being able to actually put these strategies into action in their classrooms or in their settings. So the work that you'll be doing is developing lesson plans using the strategies really that are targeting the needs of your students. And then, of course, implementing them with that level of support of your instructor and your cohort mates as well, or your classmates as well. And really being able to, explain ways to increase SEL, civil discourse, and social justice in your school community. So you'll leave this short course with the skills necessary to be able to really put STAT into action in your particular setting. So I'm going to turn this over to Tracy, and she's going to share with you about another short course, which is the SEL Learning Lab.
Okay, thank you, Lauren. So now I'm going to tell you about the Social Emotional Learning Lab 2-course online certificate program. So we heard the name Dr. Maurice Elias earlier. So now I'm going to bring that name back to let you know that he was also the inspiration for the SEL Lab. And he started the SEL Lab way back in 1993. So he had an idea of bringing people together. He worked with our counselor at the time, and it was Victoria Podobecki. And together they implemented the lab in Highland Park. So the principal at the time took a chance on establishing this one-of-a-kind lab that would be an alternative to a timeout rule. So the goal of the lab is to give students the necessary skills to communicate successfully with both peers and teachers, as well as learn appropriate problem-solving techniques while increasing academic performance. So in my district, our Tier 1 approach is responsive classroom management. And when we find that students aren't able to grasp those concepts and those ideas that are introduced mainly in morning meetings and things like that, we have our tier 2 approach, which is the SEL Lab, and that is built on referrals. So the question always is, well, how do you get referred to the lab? So usually people that come to the lab are students who are unable to regulate their emotions, and this could be stemming from their peers, home, or the stress of school. We also have students who are unable to develop peer relationships before, during, and after school hours. And then we also deal with students who are unable to manage their behaviors or who have trouble focusing, staying on task, or you still have some teachers who send students out of the room. We want them to be able to regulate their emotions so they can say, hey, I can take a moment, take a few breaths, keep calm, stay in the room, and rejoin the activity that's taking place. So the courses. So course one will assist you with the step-by-step process of initiating and implementing this SEL lab in your setting. So this course introduces you to a variety of worksheets, games, and activities to engage scholars in learning and practicing a particular set of skills that we teach. So in the lab, we work with approximately 15 skills. Everything is in the book. It teaches you in the course, you're able to roll out step by step how to train the individuals working in the lab, how to go about getting funding and what is needed to sustain the lab. Um, During this course, we also have your students, they create a SEL lab kit. And this kit has, it's portable so you can do it in an actual room, or you can have it on the go as a resource. So with the kit, it has all of the lessons and activities so that you can start up your own lab. And the skills that we touch on are traits such as respect, responsibility, perseverance, courage, empathy, cooperation, kindness, caring, restraint, confidence, and on and on. So course two. Now, course two will take the learning and the kit development from course one and apply it to the opening of their own SEL lab. So this will all be done under the direct mentorship of the instructor. So students will learn how to work and teach their participants in an actual one-on-one setting. Okay. So, as we know, many schools have social, emotional, and character development prevention programs, but this overview is for those interested in learning more about an intervention program designed to help support students having difficulty internalizing the social emotional skills and or character development concepts. So we think about, who can implement this lab. So of course, Lauren mentioned this earlier, we have teachers, after school providers, counselors, and other support staff. So I currently supervise a social emotional learning lab. And at our school, the lab serves as a pre-referral intervention program. And it gives the counselor, the educators, and the school providers an essential role in dealing with the link of academics and SECD. So we take a lot of, we do a lot of self-assessments. We do a lot of reports on what we're seeing at home, teacher reaction surveys, parent reaction surveys, and student reaction surveys. So all of our assessments have shown that the SEL Lab participants are better prepared with skills to appropriately express their feelings, become calm, put their problems into words, and become good social problem solvers and decision makers. So the lab, I find that it creates a safe and caring learning environment for students, and it leads to an increase in students' academic achievement. I will say the lab has truly changed the climate and culture of our school in Highland Park. So that is it for our presentation. I hope you have all enjoyed it. Now for our Q&A.